the Holy Spirit spoke this phrase to me, and it really got my attention. He said, bitterness, resentment, and unforgiveness are just as wrong as the wrong that's been done to you. So this let me know that these three emotions, along with other ones, of course, but we're going to look at these three emotions specifically tonight and how they work hand in hand to get you down a road of being stuck in the pain of the past. So my name is Trisha Warren, and I want to thank you for watching Hope Beyond the Hurt. And that's exactly what we're endeavoring to do, is to get beyond the hurt of the current moment, or even maybe some things that you've been facing for a long time. You haven't known how to progress forward from it. Well, we're going to look at that. And we're going to especially look at these three toxic traits of hurt. Again, they're bitterness, resentment, and unforgiveness. So let's jump right back in. And hey, if you haven't yet subscribed to Hope Beyond the Hurt, go ahead and click that subscribe button below so that you can be able to be updated and know every single time that we release a new video. So let's jump right back in. So these three emotions, again, they kind of go hand in hand together, because it starts off with bitterness, and it can, if it lingers on, it'll move into resentment. And then before you know it, you're into full-blown unforgiveness, and you're endeavoring to kind of get out of this stuck position. It's kind of like when you have a truck that's stuck in the mud. If you keep rolling those tires forward, you're not going to do anything but get further down, deeper into the mud. So we don't want to do that. We want to find out how through God's word we can maneuver and get out of this situation. So we're going to look at what the word has to say about that tonight, about these three toxic traits. So I kind of feel like a lot of times emotions, whenever something happens that's painful, the first thing that happens is our emotions take charge. It's kind of like that family member that decided to come visit you that you didn't invite, right? They bring their bags and you're like, hey, I didn't know you were coming. And your house isn't ready. You haven't bought any groceries. Nothing's ready, but they just show up. That's how these toxic emotions are. They bring their bags. They just barge their way in, and they're going to tell you how it's going to go. And so you don't have to let those emotions stay. The nature of God on the inside of you is to love, regardless of what you faced, regardless of what you've been through. Did you know that the nature of God in you is to love through it all? You don't have to stay in the hurt, even though it comes natural. And I think that's what holds a lot of people back, is these emotions. They feel so natural. So you have to go against what you feel. You have to literally go and go the opposite direction as what you feel. You have to keep doing the right thing even when it feels wrong. We're going to look at these three toxic traits tonight that happen after hurt. Again, they're just going to barge their way in, but you don't have to let them stay. So the first person in the Bible that I want to look at, and it's from the book of Ruth, and it's Naomi, the mother-in-law of Ruth. Now, they were from Bethlehem, but there was a famine in Bethlehem, so they went ahead and moved. So her and her husband, Elimelech, and their two sons and their wives, they all moved to Moab. Well, when they were in Moab, guess what happens? Naomi experiences the most devastation that she could ever have experienced. Her husband died, and then later her two sons died. And now she had to just make a decision of, what do I do? Like, now I've got, my husband's gone, my sons are gone, and now I'm going to lose my daughter-in-laws. Because what happened in those days were the women, if their husband died, they went back to their families so that they could start over. Well, she gave her two daughter-in-laws the option, and one of them decided to stay with her. So when Naomi and Ruth, after they had heard that the famine in Bethlehem was over, they moved back to Bethlehem. But remember, Naomi was wounded. She was very hurt. And so when she moved back to Bethlehem, all these people, they would recognize her. And she told them, hey, Naomi, how are you doing? And she was like, don't call me Naomi anymore. That's not who I am. I'm not Naomi anymore. I want you to call me Mara. I'm not really sure how you say that, but it's spelled Mara. She said, don't call me Naomi anymore. Call me Mara, because I am now bitter. And what we have to understand is sometimes the circumstances in your life, again, when you're hurt and you're wounded, especially if you continuously rehearse those hurts, bitterness can set in. It brings its bags initially, but you choose to let it stay. And that's what she chose to do in that moment. She chose, as they were moving back to Bethlehem, to hold on to that bitterness and that pain. And I'm sure that was devastating to lose your husband and your sons. But guess what happened? She did not stay there. And God was able to, through Ruth, through her love for her mother-in-law, restore her family line because she ended up marrying Boaz, one of Naomi's family members, and they had a son, and his name was Obed. And guess who Obed was? Obed was the grandfather of King David, whom was in the lineage of Jesus. So Naomi was now in the lineage of Jesus. And I wonder, honestly, I have to sit there and think in my mind, God knew all along the pain that she would endure, but he always has restoration on the other side. The enemy may try to bring things at you. And what's unfortunate is a lot of times so many people, they can't explain the pain of the moment, so they blame it on God. God has nothing to do with your pain. God has nothing to do with the circumstances and the situations that you're currently facing. You have to remember who your enemy is. And John 10:10 makes that clear. The thief comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. Jesus said, I have come to give you life and life more abundantly. And he was sent to show us the character of God. God makes a way for you to have restoration, to have healing and hope and peace. He proved that through the life of Jesus. The enemy is always the one who comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So you have to keep God. Remember, he's your answer. He's never your problem. And you have to do a lot of self-searching. If you're starting to get angry and things at God, never make him your problem. Always get internal with yourself and ask God to help you see what you need to see, because he's never your problem. So that's what Naomi did. I believe she kind of shook herself up and said, okay, we need to get off this bitterness train. And she decided that she was going to trust God. So you have to read the story of Ruth. It's a beautiful story if you haven't. But God brought her restoration. And I believe that that's because she chose to release the bitterness from her heart, from the grief that she experienced. And God restored her life and gave her a grandson. Even though her sons had passed, she still received a son, and not just a son, a lineage to be in the heritage of the life of Jesus. So that's a powerful, powerful story. So don't allow bitterness and its suitcase to stay. You have to get it gone. And you do that through believing and speaking the word and reminding yourself that you are free. Remember, we talked about this. John 8:31 and 32 says, whom the Son sets free is free indeed. You just have to remind your mind that you are free, because it tries to pull you back to the pain of the past. And so let's now look at resentment. Resentment is number 2, toxic trait that tries to pull you down and keep you stuck in this pain of your past. So resentment happens after bitterness has been rehearsed. So you stay in this position of rehearsing the hurt, talking about it, letting it play over and over and over and in your mind. And then before you know it, you're full of resentment, which can lead to other toxic emotions. So we really can't let this one stay. So the example that I really found inspiring in this case would be in the life of Joseph. Now we know that Joseph's brothers resented him so much. And why did they resent him? Because his dad favored him a little bit more than he did anybody else. And so as a result of that, they wanted him gone, and not just gone, they wanted him dead. So they ended up selling him into slavery, and he went into this life of having to really fight for and believe God through all of the different situations that he faced, because we know that he just didn't get sold into slavery, but he also had to go to prison, and then God restored him to the palace. What the beautiful thing is during that famine, his brothers actually had to come to him to be able to receive food. And Joseph, he could have, and what I think is so beautiful is through this whole experience, you see Joseph never turning his face from God. He always found favor with all of these people because he kept his eyes on Jesus. And that's what I think we have to understand. We can't get our eyes on people ever. We can't have our security wrapped up completely in a person because we're always going to be let down. There's always going to be an opportunity. People are not perfect. They're going to let you down. So you can't keep your eyes on people. You have to keep your eyes on the Father. You have to keep your eyes on the one who will never let you down. As the word talks about in Hebrews 13:5, he will never leave you or forsake you. Now, people, they might leave you and they might not even care. They might not apologize. They may think that you're trash. But God, he always is there. So if you put your eyes on people, that's how you get super devastated and you fall into this trap of all of these things. And I don't think Joseph did that. I think he kept his eyes on God. And we see how God just continued to bless him and restore him. And what's so beautiful is when his brothers were brought before him and he had this opportunity to just kill them all, like get rid of them all. What he did is he forgave them and he loved them. And he had chosen that the whole way. And so when they were brought before him, he told them, he said, what you meant to bring evil into my life, God turned it for the good. And that's what he will always do. If you choose life over those emotions that are trying to barge their way into your heart, you don't have to let them stay. You have to choose to do what's right, even when it feels wrong. Because those emotions, they're pushy. They're like that bully that's trying to tell you what to do, to take your lunch money. That's how those emotions approach. They're very, very pushy, and they're just trying to bully you into feeling these things. And you have to say, I'm not moved by what I feel. I keep my mind focused on the word. And listen, a mature believer is not moved by feelings. A mature believer stays focused on the word. And that's what Joseph did. And we see God bring restoration to his whole family. And they were then together, and God brought Joseph back to a place of respect and honor in his family. And he'll do the same for you. And then the third toxic trait, and we've been talking about this, is unforgiveness. And I'm reminded of the story in the Bible where that man was brought before the king because he owed him a huge, huge debt. And it was a debt that he could not pay. And so he was ripped from his family and all of these things. And he went before the king and he begged him for forgiveness to be freed from this debt that he had owed. And the king had mercy on him. He let him go. But the thing about it was, he went right out and took somebody who owed him so much less, barely owed him anything, and he threw him in prison until he could pay the debt back. Instead of reciprocating the forgiveness, he chose to do the very opposite. And he was very merciless, very cruel, and he ripped him away from his family and threw him in prison. And see, that's a lot of times I feel like is how we do people. God has, through Jesus, forgiven us of such a huge debt that we could never pay. We could never repay or have made payment for the debt that was brought into our lives just because of Adam and Eve's sin. And so he sent Jesus to literally lay his life down and give his life as a sacrifice for ours to free us from the debt that we could not pay. And then here we are, we hold on to unforgiveness. And I realize I'm not trying to minimize the things that you've been through, because I believe that some of you have faced horrific things. So I'm definitely not trying to minimize that. And I'm sorry for the things that you've had to face. But in comparison to the life that we would have had to live without Jesus, it is very small in comparison. So we have to choose to let people go. We can't hold on to the pain of the past because it only hurts you. Because what happened in that story was that other man, he was thrown back into prison until he could repay his debt. And that's the thing, that's what the word talks about in Mark 11:22-24, that to be forgiven, we must forgive. And why is that? Because it brings a division. It interferes with our relationship with God. And we don't want anything to interfere with our relationship with Him. So today, let's make the decision together. No more bitterness, no more resentment, and no more unforgiveness. We choose as an act of our will to release those people of the things that they've done. We tell these toxic emotions to pack their bags and hit the trail because we're not staying stuck anymore in the pain of the past. We're moving forward, and you can do that in faith today. And I'm believing with you. So thank you so much for watching. I believe that this message has encouraged you. I know it's encouraged me. And so we keep building on these things that God's showing us, and we choose life. That's what Deuteronomy 30:19 says. It says to choose life that you and your seed can live. And so when you choose life, you're choosing the word, you're choosing the faith route instead of how you feel. Again, you have to do what's right regardless of how you feel. Even when it feels wrong, choose to do the right thing. And I believe that you're going to do that. So if this message encouraged you, I would love for you to like it, to share it with somebody that you know that it will help, because that's all I care about is helping people move past the pain of their past, because that's what God did for me. And I believe that it's available for each and every one of us. If you want to become a friend on my friend list, I email you guys on a weekly basis things that will build you up and encourage you. And I would love to have you be on that list. So I'll throw that link in the story notes below, and you can be able to create, it'll throw up a form for you to be able to fill out so that I'll be able to send you an email on a weekly basis. So again, thank you so much for watching. I love you guys, and I hope you have a great night.